Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Africa, tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. America, tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze.
You are listening to African Father in America podcast by Simon Javan Okello, live from Seattle, Washington, USA.
Thank you so much for joining me for another amazing episode of the Daily African Proverbs. We are live on YouTube, and we're also live on Clubhouse. My YouTube handle is Simon Javan Okello, and my Clubhouse handle is at Okello Javan, but we are live inside the African Father in America Club. I will be pinning the link to the live broadcast to you in just a moment. But today I'm actually very, very privileged because I am not alone. I am here with the amazing Lisa Uamoto, who is one of the project managers for the Food Equity Fund at the city of Seattle in the Department of Neighborhoods. And so we will be talking about food justice today, but we will also primarily be centering our conversation on one amazing African proverb. And this proverb is from Egypt. It's been a long time since we had a proverb from Egypt. And the proverb says, "An orphaned calf licks its own back." An orphaned calf licks its own back. I would love for you to share with us your comment on this. If you're watching on YouTube, just leave us with your comment so that we know what this proverb means to you. I'll repeat it one more time. An orphaned calf licks its own back. And when I looked at this proverb myself, I felt that this proverb speaks about, it speaks about the desperation that can come about when you are so vulnerable, when you are so alone, and it also speaks to leadership. Leadership, especially being an entrepreneur, especially being a founder, can be very lonely, and you can even feel like an orphan because a lot of the people don't show up when you're actually grinding and working hard. Like, I had to wake up at 3 a.m. in order for me to have this show at 6 a.m. today. And I do that, almost every day of the week. And, nobody can wake up with you at that time every day unless you're paying them a lot of money. So sometimes really this proverb actually reflects to the case of entrepreneurs and just people who are getting amazing things done with very minimal resources. But also, I actually literally grew up in an orphanage home that my mother started in 1997. And, sometimes we'd only survive on one meal, And so this proverb really speaks about the desperation that can happen when you have very few choices, And also growing up in the slum, even though I was growing up in an orphanage, I still felt privileged than many other people in our community, So for me, this proverb just speaks about also our responsibility. When you see an orphaned calf, don't let it lick its own back, You should extend an helping hand, And I feel that that's also the work that Lisa and her team are doing. You're not letting the orphaned calves, especially when it comes to the BIPOC and Black community in Seattle, the people that need the grants that you guys are providing. You're not letting us be so desperate that we can't even survive, but you're ensuring that we don't leak our back. So these proverbs apply to so many situations and so many environments. And Lisa, I want you to speak about this proverb so that our guests can learn about your interpretation, and then we will go a little bit further into our conversation today. But real quick, to those who are just joining us on Clubhouse, thank you so much. I would love for you to join us on stage so that you can, share with us your interpretation later on. At 6:30 a.m., I will be turning off hand raising. So this would be a good time for you to join us on stage so that you can share your interpretation and thoughts about this proverb later on. But if you are joining us on YouTube, like, the wonderful Liz, who is saying good morning, Javan. Thank you so much. And leave us your comment, engage with us so that, we know your thoughts. So now let's hear from Lisa. Again, if you're meeting Lisa for the first time, she's live with me on YouTube. I'll be pinning the link in just a moment so that if you're on Clubhouse, you can join us there. But Lisa is just doing amazing work that she will be speaking about in just a moment. For now, share with us your thoughts on the proverb, Lisa. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. First of all, I just want to say I'm very, very honored to be here. So thank you for inviting me to be here and learning from your community. And then learning from this proverb. I actually, to be honest, when you first shared with me, I was like, oh my God, I don't know. Let me Google this and figure it out. What does that mean? Then that was very helpful because you start helping me to start thinking and reflecting. So to me, that really means sort of having this strong will to be able, and then ability to be able to adapt and adjust quickly with very limited resources, right? Limited to no resources. And then I think as a person of color, especially here in the United States, I think we always in life, I think there are situations where we feel alone, and then that we really have very limited support and resources, and then we all have to sort of pick up and learn really fast and be able to adapt and move forward. And then kind of like what you said earlier, but you also become so important that we able to ask and then also able to sort of learn from others, because I'm sure even though in order to lick your own back, you also have to be able to watch others to do it so you know how to do it. So I thought, that's kind of my interpretation of it, to remind me that, sometimes, we have to sort of be on our own, but then but there are ways that where we can get information, and then we can do it, and then that's be able to adapt and adjust and move forward. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much. You're the first person I'm interviewing on my podcast who is not of African descent, and I just want you to know that everyone came from Africa according to science and according to history. So I want you to feel at home, but I want you to know that you're breaking ground, and I want to have more people on the YouTube channel, and also as guests the way I'm having you, because there's a guy that attends this show on Clubhouse who his name is Roger Tan. He's in Singapore, and he's also Asian, and he shares a lot of wisdom with us in this room, and a lot of the way he interprets the African proverbs are very related, and he shares with us proverbs from his culture too that are very very related to African proverbs, and so it's amazing what you shared with us, but I want to welcome everyone who has joined us on Clubhouse. If you want to join us on YouTube, Lisa and I are live, and you can use the link right above the room on Clubhouse to join us now, and really share with us your thoughts about the proverb from Egypt that we are discussing today. The proverb says, an orphaned calf licks its own back. Now, Lisa already shared with us her interpretation. I shared my interpretation, and now we want to learn a little bit about you, Lisa. Share with us, your childhood story, something that, as a leader now in a big city like Seattle, that is very, very diverse. Even though Seattle is primarily considered a city that is filled with white people for the most part. You know, you still see the Asian community growing, you see the African community growing, especially because of the tech companies that are employing hundreds and hundreds of people every month that arrive in Seattle. You know, I arrived here in 2010 myself. I first visited Seattle in 2009. When did you arrive in Seattle? And before you say that, just share with us your childhood story that really makes you such an amazing leader. You know, you're one of the few people I've worked with that, you know, create time. Like now, we are talking at 6 a.m. in the morning. And, you know, I know that the city of Seattle, your office is not open yet, you know. So where is this, you know, passion coming from?
Well, I think first of all, I immigrate. I'm originally from Taipei, Taiwan. I immigrated to Seattle and then ever since I immigrated to the United States, I was in 1990, and Seattle. I always stay in Seattle. I didn't go anywhere else. So it's always in Seattle. I was only about 12 at that time. So the reason I came to United States was kind of interesting. My family, I grew up my family wasn't very rich. My father has a gambling addiction. So it was really bad in Taiwan. So I think the family actually sort of figured out, since I have an auntie that was in Seattle, they figured out if he went over to Seattle as a new environment and everything, he will be so busy to survive that perhaps, that he won't be, kind of stuck in gambling. But the reality, that didn't quite work. But that's fine. That's a different story. And at that time, my parents were actually divorced. But then it was really hard for a single mom in Taiwan to raise three kids. There's three kids in the family. I'm the youngest. There are two older sisters. And then so for her, she realized that even though she managed, she's an amazing woman. She was able to raise us, and we never feel poor, even though we're not very rich. But then it's going to be hard, especially through school and education as we grow older. So she eventually realized that it would be good with my father's relationship, that maybe we'll have a better opportunity if we came over to United States. So that's why they got remarried, and then they're trying to send us over. But that was really hard for us, as being you're pretty much raised by your mother, and then suddenly you had to move to a country, right, where you don't speak the language very well, and then just kind of start kind of on your own. And then my father also wasn't really there. I mean, he's a great person, but then he have his own issue to deal with. So we were kind of on our own. But I was very fortunate because I'm the youngest, so I have two older sisters. So in some way, they're kind of both become my mom, even though they're only 1 year apart from me. So I think through that process, I learned pretty quickly, kind of like this proverb, us being an orphan, Cap had to lift your own back. But I'm fortunate I have at least two older sisters that's always there to support me when I was in here. But then oftentimes, there are times where I was kind of lost. I'm not sure what to do. And then I think I was looking back throughout my life. What's so important is a lot. I think my success and then my passion really laid down to the people I met, the people that had sort of guide me and teach me and show me the way. So that's when I realized how important it is, especially when when there's so limited resources, and sometimes when you have so limited resources, you don't even know what to ask because you don't know what's out there. And then in that sense, it really is so important to have others to show you, to guide you. But then sometimes others doesn't know you need that guidance unless you ask. So that's how the community building work had become so important to me, because I feel like at that time, I'm not sure how to ask for help. And then so now I'm getting some help. I feel like, well, I want to make sure for people that came, that have limited resources, I want to figure out, well, that they know that there are resources out there to help you. There are people out there to help you. So to me, it's so important. I think the power of asking, networking, getting the information, to me, that is just so key in terms of in the community building work that I'm doing. So that's something I want to share.
Wow, thank you so much. Brilliant response and, just amazing wisdom. I want to ask you about, your experience working, with people of other races, for example, being interviewed on a podcast that is primarily benefiting Black and African people. Black people in general globally are the primary audience of the Daily African Proverbs and also the African Father in America podcast. But also at work, so I feel like you are very brave, you're very confident, and you showed up and you kept me accountable. Are you sending me the details, But at work, you also work very closely with Aline Ruth, who was my guest yesterday, and she shared with us powerful story about her and also about Seattle that taught me so much. I just want you to share with us the dynamic of not only, the skills that you shared with us of the importance of asking for help, asking questions, networking, building community, especially if you move into a new place like yourself. I want you to just think about the dynamic of working closely with people of other races and how have you been able to do it so successfully. I feel that we all need to learn how you're doing it, because we can't run away from the fact that we are bound to live and work together, no matter whether we are white, black, red, orange. We have gone too far that we have to find positive and great ways of working together as people of different races, and I feel like you're doing that very well. So think about how you're doing it, and then from there I want us to go straight into I want you to share with us a little bit about the Food Equity Fund, and also when you hear the word food justice, what comes to your mind? But really, I want to, as you are speaking, I was also thinking about the tension that exists between China and Taiwan. It's something that you don't need to respond to, but I just wanted to share it because, we can never live in peace. I wish we all lived in peace, but it seems peace is so far-fetched. But another story that came to my mind as you were speaking was that, One Vibe Africa, the non-profit organization that I run here in Seattle, also works in Kenya. And the work we do in Kenya involves teaching children traditional African music. And we also host interns, musicians from other places, including the students from other countries that come and intern with us in Kenya. And one of the students we hosted a few years ago was from Taiwan.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we taught him how to play traditional African music. You see the instrument that I'm carrying on my hands, in my profile picture for those who are on Clubhouse. But I'll have to send you a different... this instrument behind me. Yeah, so if you're watching on YouTube, I actually have Nyatiti, the music instrument I'm talking about, right behind me. But so we taught him this, how to make it from scratch, and how to play it, how to sing with it. And I just wanted you to know that we have a deeper connection. But talk to us in just a moment. But I do want to recognize people who are joining us on Clubhouse and just quickly give them a shout out before you continue in response to the questions I just posed. I want to thank you so much, Dr. M.D. Williams and Sandra and Joseph and Hahadi and Mama Yama and Mag and Naomi and Jali and Elom, Ingrid, Emily, and MK. Thank you so much for joining us on Clubhouse. I would love for you to join us on stage if you want to, share your feedback on the conversation we are having, or if you want to give us your interpretation of today's proverb that is pinned right at the top of the room. But if you're on YouTube, I want you to make sure you're leaving us with your comments. Thank you, Aline Ruth, for joining us. Aline was our guest yesterday, and she works closely with Lisa, and she's just here to support. Aline says that she made a comment on YouTube saying that, beautiful story you shared. And she says that she has worked with you for many, many years. And and what you're sharing is exactly who you are. I love that. Anyhow, I'll pass you the microphone, Lisa. Share with us, the dynamics of just working with someone like Aline for the past many years, and how others who are listening can learn from you. And then share with us what food justice means to you, and how it's connected with the current grants that you're giving out.
I think, thank you. So, yes, so I think our work had always involved working with different groups, very diverse environments. And then at the same time, because we're doing community building work, so a lot of time it's also to trying to figure out how can we work together. Because oftentimes I think we all come with the same goal, but then maybe the way we communicate it is very different. So that's also why I kind of think about, when you ask me, what was important in terms of, for me, from the childhood to sort of be who I am today. That's why I always talk about is this sort of the power of asking, not making assumptions, but then but also value the information you learn. So I think through that, sometimes working with a diverse population is when you come in with sincerity and respect, where you are not making any assumption, and then that you're asking and then really are sincerely about learning. And then you naturally sort of, your listening skill gets better. Then when that happens, then you realize, oh, well, what you're saying really are similar to this other group are saying, but then maybe a slightly different goal. But then you sort of try to link all this together, and then try to figure out, well, slightly different, but we still have that some common goal. So what do you think about this? And that's when you start seeing the opportunity. But at the same time, also through that, you see the strength of every group and everyone. And then you will be able to kind of link those strengths together. And I think that's a very powerful and very rewarding work when you see all that and everything kind of like a puzzle just kind of connect together. And then I also learned that a lot through, people from my work. Like Elaine, I mean, I was joking with you earlier. I was like, oh, you should have put me first. Oh my gosh, how can you put me after Elaine? That would be too hard. But then, it's just amazing because, I mean, I think throughout your life, I mean, you meet very, people, and then that you learn so much from everyone. And then, I don't know where I'm going from that, but then, in some cases, I think that's where I really bring me to where I am, because where my ability to sort of really sincerely and respectfully to kind of work closely with people, but then also learning from them and value the information that they provided, and then really do listening to see what they are really trying to say, or what their needs are, and then try to connect all that stuff together. I'm gonna stop there.
No, this is great. This is great. Thank you so much, Lisa. And thank you, Jay and Rich Mo, for joining us on stage. And to everyone else who is with us here on Clubhouse, thank you for joining us. We are live streaming this conversation on YouTube as well. The link, if you want to join us, is right at the top of the page. My special guest is Lisa Uamoto, who is a project manager for the Food Equity Grant at the city of Seattle, in the Department of Neighborhood. On stage is also Jay, who is a renowned Seattle, artist, poet, writer. And so Jay, I would love for you to, help us spread the word, because this is an opportunity that can benefit quite a few people in your community too. But also, I'm really excited today because I'm hosting the first guest who is not of African descent, and she's having such a great time. I was telling her that, we all came from Africa. When we left Africa is when it's different. And so, feel at home. Now, we've learned so much today. We've learned about Lisa's interpretation of this proverb. We've learned about her childhood story that inspires who she is as a leader today. And now we want to learn about her thoughts on food justice, and we want to learn more about the Food Equity Fund and how everyone who is listening can take advantage of the current opportunity, and also just the future of the Food Equity Fund, in case people watch this later after the deadline of the current grant cycle.
So I think food justice, I think earlier you asked, what does that mean? And then to me, fundamentally, it's really think about, because it's food, it's really think about, are you able to access to affordable but also quality and nutritious food? Is your community able to do that? And then for me, also go a little deeper into sort of this generational of injustice in terms of a food. How should I say that? Sometimes, if you're from the community where it's harder to access healthier, quality, nutritious food, whether or not you had to go very far away to access those, or they're very expensive in your neighborhood. Sometimes if that's where you are from your community, sometimes when you're growing up, you didn't even realize that gap. And then, and you may just naturally already changing your eating habit to things that are less healthy. And then because that's just kind of, because you didn't know, because that might be you just kind of go on with your life and purchasing things that you can afford. And then all the things that are around you are fast food or just things that are not very healthy. Then that, to me, that is really a big justice issue. So for me, it's also about the ability to kind of break that cycle and break that barrier. And so I think part of it is not only for this grant, I think, but now it's kind of hard. It's also because of pandemic. So we're definitely want to address the food security issue, but at the same time, it's about the education, sharing the knowledge, and then really trying to see how we can break through that barrier, so that people can start thinking, okay, well, in terms of learning, and adapt and just to figure out, how can we best get and then have a easier access to those quality, nutritious, and also try to make it more sustainable, in terms of. So I think some of the project that they're looking at is the ability to teach people to grow their own food, and then also teach people cooking cooking and sharing those food, and then sharing those knowledge of this different benefit. And then, so I think those are very powerful. So I'm actually very honored, and I feel great that we're part of this group. to trying to figure out how we can be best to some kind of work and break through that barrier, that access barrier.
Wow, thank you. Thank you so much. So if I was listening to this conversation and I have an idea or I have a project that is happening, and the only thing that is stopping me from doing it is the funding, where do I start? Where do I start in order for me to access the funding from the current food equity fund that I will personally be applying for it, for a dinner series that I have been organizing in Seattle since 2016. It's called the One Vibe African Dinner Series. And Jay, you have to be there. I'll have 3. Oh, actually, I might have more, maybe 6 series if I get this grant. But I just want you all to know that the dinner series that I've been producing, if you're interested, I can send you a video. Actually, we have a video from the previous episodes. It's really, really powerful, what Lisa is saying. It makes a huge difference if you're from Africa and you can access African food in Seattle and be with African people and eat together. And also, just like we are introducing Proverbs to people from other cultures, introduce African food to other cultures, introduce African diet and lifestyle to other cultures. It's really, really, for me, it's important to do, because we've adapted so much Hollywood lifestyle and diet that we've moved so far away from who we are, and that's part of the problem. So I think this is an important effort, and I'm very, very proud of you, and I'm very lucky that you chose to spend your time with us this morning. I want to open the space for a few of our guests who are on stage to share their interpretation of today's proverb. And Lisa, stay with us so that at the end you can just summarize today's conversation by your closing remarks, and then we'll continue tomorrow. Tomorrow we have Gogo Rutendo Ngara from South Africa. She's a spiritual leader. She was here with us last Thursday. So tune in. It's going to be amazing. That's all I'll say for now. With that, I want to quickly introduce Dr. M.D. Williams. Briefly, just tweet size, share with us your interpretation of the proverb and any comments to the wonderful Lisa Uamoto.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to speak on this platform. This proverb, when I first heard the proverb and I was listening, and then I listened to your interpretation and Lisa's interpretation, I said, okay, it makes a lot of sense. An orphan calf licks its own back. It's like you said, as entrepreneurs, most of the time we're orphans out here in our industries. We're the one grinding every day, and you're right. Most people don't show up until after the grind, or not doing the process, but to help you celebrate you going through the process. So what that actually entails is you have to be able to self motivate. You have to be able to initiate self care of yourself and understand that you have to be your own cheerleader sometimes, especially in entrepreneurship and also in leadership. You have to be your own cheerleader sometimes, and you have to be able to take care of yourself. You have to be, and then, but I love what Lisa said. In order to learn how to take care of yourself, in order for an orphan to learn how to lick its own back, it had to watch other people, other orphans do it. What is amazing about all that is that if you're watching, and that's what I did. If you're watching and you're learning, then you're able to mimic that, and you're also able to improve on those actions and taking care of yourself. So to me, that's what that means. It's very simple. And taking care of yourself and being able to understand and it also goes back into what we talked about yesterday, being able to follow, have the discipline to follow. And then for the wonderful Lisa, I appreciate your story. It's amazing how you overcome. You probably didn't think about it like that when you were 12 years old, but how much you overcome, and being an immigrant. Um, to this country, and I always say everyone's an immigrant to this country except for the natives that was here
Mhm.
before the first ships landed. So everybody's an immigrant to this country in some shape,
Mhm.
form, or fashion. But I appreciate your story, and I appreciate what y'all are doing in Seattle. I'm in Virginia. I don't live in Seattle. I'm gonna across the country, but I do appreciate the program and everything that y'all do.
Well, thank you, Dr. M.D. Williams, and also thank you for, your powerful comment on yesterday's video, and on also the story of yesterday's guest, who is also watching today. Aline Ruth is with us on YouTube, and one of the things you said about her story is that it needs to be turned into a movie. So, Aline, if you're watching, your story was so powerful, and I just want you to know that, you know, uh, I'm grateful. I'm grateful. Jay, please grab the mic and share with us your thoughts on today's proverb, and also the conversation we've been having with Lisa today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brother Simon, and thank you so much, Lisa. I didn't catch the very beginning, but I love your laugh. It is so infectious. And also, it's so thoughtful and considerate the way Simon is to, share this information about this particular grant. And Lisa, as soon as I heard about it, the congregation that I attend, that we have a feeding program every Wednesday, and it went through the pandemic. It's not where they were able to come into the building, but food was continued to be provided, and these are cooked meals, not sandwiches. Every Wednesday for the homeless. And then we still have a before and after school children's program. And this also through the pandemic, still, I think we slowed down for a moment, but, understanding that parents still had to work. So that program was still available to them, and so we're definitely going to be applying for this grant because it's really important that children learn the importance of eating healthy, wholesome foods, and that's available and provided to them, and they know what it contains and how. Certain foods are really good for their bodies and strengthening their bodies. And the same thing with our homeless, just making sure that they're also eating healthy, wholesome meals as well. Regarding the proverb, um, I have a real soft spot. If you look at my bio, I have a real soft spot for children. And of course, I like animals too. And so when it comes to being orphaned, I think of someone, a child or a small animal um, that no longer has parents or a parent looking after it. And, when it's in its most vulnerable stages and when it needs the guidance and the help and the support of an adult, and that's not available anymore. I know you've heard that phrase, scratch your own back.
Mhm.
Um, that it's tougher. It's tougher. It's hard to scratch or to lick your own back. And that is what an orphan calf will need to do. And again, it applies to a human child as well, is that you're going to have a rougher go. It's going to
Mhm.
be harder. It's going to be more difficult because what someone else would naturally and normally do for you as you're in your development stages, as you're growing and trying to understand the world around you and mature, you're just going to have to mature faster and make sure that you're patting your own self on the back for your successes, that you're encouraging your own self to keep going and not quit and not give up. And hopefully, as a village, there are others that will step in and will be able to take over some of the role and the responsibilities that that adult in your life would have. And that's my interpretation of this proverb. Again, thank you, Lisa, so much for showing up. And thank you, Simon, for sharing an amazing opportunity. This is Jane. I finished speaking.
Thank you, Jay. I'm grateful for your words of wisdom. And now I want to pass it to the wonderful Lisa Wamoto to share with us, her closing comments. But also for those who are joining us on Clubhouse, thank you so much. I see Daryl and Dr. Wanda just joined us on Sunday. Thank you so much. And Elom and Jali and Fred and Ingrid and everyone else who has been in the room, MK. I see, oh wow, we have Dr. Cynthia Graham as well, and Mag and Joseph. Thank you so much. I'm grateful for your presence. And on YouTube, we also have the wonderful Marlene Lebaron who has joined us, as well as Aline Ruth, and we have Delise. Thank you so much for being here with us. We are discussing an Egyptian proverb that says, an orphaned calf licks its own back. We've learned a lot about what this proverb means. We've learned from Lisa, who is our special guest today. And Lisa works with the city of Seattle in the Department of Neighborhoods, and she's a project manager for the Food Equity Fund. And now Lisa is going to share with us her closing remarks, and then I will wrap our conversation right after that. Lisa, please go ahead and share with us, how today felt like for you, and also if there's anything that I didn't ask you that you want everyone to learn. This is a good opportunity, and thank you again so much for making the time. It means a lot.
And I want to thank the guest, the earlier, some of the people sharing your thoughts. Thank you so very much. And thank you for sharing also the project that you were working on. I mean, that's just amazing. I think it is really, you already speak exactly the type of project that the Food Equity Fund will fund, bring not just hot meal to people that may not be easily access to cooking supply to cook these meal, that have limited resources, teaching the young people about eating healthier, but then also providing the healthier food to them. So thank you. So that is really amazing. And I think the beauty of this grant, the food justice, is that the food justice may mean different things for your neighborhood, for your community. I mean, and Simon, thank you for sharing, because earlier you share, it's also different because your focus is where you really wanna sort of bring back the tradition, the culture, that make sure the younger generation, but then also share that with now your new neighbors in Seattle and other people about the food, the nutritious food that you grew up with. So I think that's one beauty of this program. We recognize and acknowledge that food justice and that need means different things for different community, and then we want. And that's also why we, the program really are also open to a community group. So you don't have to be a nonprofit 501c3. You do have to have a physical sponsor, that 501c3 nonprofit, but we can help make that connection. If you're a community group of people that really are coming together and you want to do something for your neighborhood, and then you just tell us what does food justice means to your community and what are you looking for, and then we can kind of sort of learn your projects and figure it out. It is a competitive process, but then I feel like kind of like similar to what you're doing, Simon, is we need to first also learn from people about their story and what their passion are and what they would like to work on. And I think as a community project, it's just so much more powerful if it really come from the community themselves, because then they themselves know better what they need than us thinking what they need. So I'm really hoping people would take an opportunity to if you are interested, feel free to contact us and let us know. And then we have a website. I'm not sure. I know yesterday. Um, please do listen to yesterday's podcast. I think my colleague Elaine has a very powerful story. And I think in the chat we did also posted some of our web page information, e.g., as well as phone number. But then if people have any question, you can also feel free to give me a call. My number is 206-858-1673. So that's also the phone number that you can contact if you need more information.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I'm grateful and I can't wait to have you again for the Daily African Proverbs, Lisa. And, have a beautiful day. Now, for everyone else who is here with me, for the Daily African Proverbs on Clubhouse and also here on YouTube, thank you again for making the time. This is work that we have to do together. It's work that I can't do on my own. So, if you're watching this as a replay, make sure you leave your comment on YouTube and like this video and share it with your community members, especially if this proverb means something to you. If you're watching or if you're listening on Clubhouse, I encourage you to follow the African Father in America Club. That way, when we host this conversation tomorrow and the day after tomorrow, you can catch this conversation. And also, in the next couple of hours, if you are listening to podcasts, you can catch this as a podcast episode. My podcast is called The African Father in America, and it's available across all podcasting platforms. So with that, I just want to say thank you again, to all of you in the room on Clubhouse, and thank you again to all of you on YouTube. And I will be seeing you tomorrow at the same time. And our guest tomorrow is Gogo Rutendo Ngara, who is a renowned spiritual leader from Zimbabwe, but she's been living in South Africa for years. So thank you again, and I'm grateful.
African Father in America. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze. African Father in America. Tujikaze, tujikaze, jikaze.
You are listening to African Father in America podcast by Simon Javan Okello, live from Seattle, Washington.